and this here may be tough to you. Snack cake to me, yeah, more hostess. This been overdue forever. Asked me when it was dropping, said never. Should've made you cut the feta, but I designed it Freemason Margiela.
What's good, Shellitronnn here, the most woke, no joking. I'm back again with a brand new video, and I'm gonna keep it a Bowberry biscuit. I have a tough answer to a pretty tough question that I've been seeing not only in my comments, not only on my timeline on Twitter, not only in just different places online where people talk about the Panthers, but even like in just real life, people have been asking, should the Panthers fire Eric Washington? And that's a hard question to answer, because it's kind of hard for me. It's kind of easier for other people, I guess. I see it all the time. I see people calling people's jobs like it's nothing. But it's really hard for me to call for someone's job, for someone's livelihood, when the job they're doing may not be the best, but the results aren't exactly the worst right now. I mean, the Panthers are a 6-3 team right now, and outside of that Steelers loss, I know everyone gets really crazy after an outlier blowout loss, which honestly, it's kind of natural. But I'm not 100% sure if the defense was 100% responsible for that loss. But actually, wait, I know for a fact the defense wasn't 100% responsible for that loss. Look, are the Steelers a good team? Yes, by all accounts, the Steelers are a really good team. It's Thursday night. You have 3 days in between a game and then your next game. We're away, so we don't really get to practice. We have to travel one of those days. There's a rest day after Sunday. So we really only have a walkthrough day before you go to a pretty cold Pittsburgh game on a Thursday. And the away team on Thursday night games always does pretty bad. I think we can all agree we love watching football on Thursdays, but I think we can all recognize and agree that Thursday night football is bad for the NFL. And if you don't think it's bad for the NFL, just look at what the last several Thursday night games have been, and they've all been pretty bad. I mean, primetime in general this year has been not that great. But for Thursday night games, it's been a lot worse, and it's not going to get any better. Players do not want to play on short weeks. It's such a bad disadvantage to have a game on Sunday and then turn around 3-4 days later and have a game on Thursday. Especially if you have an away game, and then you have to have another away game. Even if you're at home before that game, you have to go away. Depending on the distance, depending on a lot of different things with how old you are, how long it takes you to recover from games and whatnot, how hard the game before that was. You may not have the same kind of intensity on a Thursday night game as you would have on a Sunday game, given the full 6 days to a game plan, which is another thing you have to take into account. But that's not really the big issue here. We have 3 losses. We'll put aside that Steelers loss. And what are our other 2 losses? One was against an Atlanta team that was kind of reeling. We probably could have taken that game. But the other was against a Redskins team that we really should have beat. It shouldn't have been a 17-0 deficit at any point, and we really could come back in that game. That was more so on the offense late in the game. But let's start off with the Falcons game. The Falcons game was probably a lot on our defense. Let's be honest. They were running up and down the field on us. I still remember I had that toss play to the right burned into my mind. They ran that play 3 or 4 different times, and we did not stop it. I'm telling you right now, if there's any other offensive coordinator watching this video from any other team, run a toss to the right, run a toss crack to the right side of the field, and just watch how well it works against us. I don't know what it is. We just cannot stop the toss to the right side of the field. It is actually disgusting. I don't mean like throw a flare route out there. I don't mean find someone out on a wheel and get the ball outside. I mean actually toss the ball right. It does not. It's actually very strange to see that one play gash us every time it gets called. It doesn't get called against us very often, but every time it gets called, it's at least 6 yards. It's actually kind of mind-blowing, honestly. We just cannot seal that edge. They didn't have Devontae Freeman, but Tevin Coleman really went off against us. But that's the biggest thing for me, the rush game, because wasn't Eric Washington the defensive line coach last year? So why has the defensive line looked worse since he's been promoted to the defensive coordinator? Like, we can all talk about how we were 3rd against the rush last year, and even this year, we're 9th against the rush. But if we really look at the numbers here, it sounds good, but we're also 28th in the league in opponents' rush attempts against. There's only been 204 rush attempts against us in 9 games. 204 rush attempts against us in 9 games. That's not very many. That's not very many at all, because teams are realizing, just like last year, we don't have to run against this Panthers defense because they're also 22nd in the league against the pass. I think we were 25th or 23rd against the pass last year, but That's just what teams are doing now. They're like, okay, we could rush against them. I mean, if we really wanted to, but why? What's the incentive? I mean, it's kind of hard to actually gauge just how good we are against the run when teams just aren't doing it against us. And it's kind of sad to see. I mean, we're 15th in yards per game against us. We're 23rd in points per game at 25.8. And that's probably more so because of that outlier game against the Steelers. Honestly, if they only scored like 30 in that game, we'd probably be somewhere near to like 15th or 14th in the league. We're probably more near the middle of the pack. But our defense, and especially our run defense, but this defense as a whole has been lackadaisical. Honestly, it's our offense carrying us in these games. We're getting 20 scored on us routinely. 20-point games is like a given for us, our defense. And I'm not 100% sure what the issue is. We're actually tied for 4th in the league with 11 interceptions, but we're tied for 21st in the league in sacks at 21. I have no idea where our front seven is. I think Luke Kuechly's taking a step back. I think he's playing kind of hurt. I don't know if he's playing hurt or if he's playing more cautiously so he doesn't get another concussion, because I think we all understand that if Luke gets a concussion again, that's his career. And honestly, I think that that's what he should do. If he gets a concussion, I do not want him on the field again. We all love Luke, but honestly, if he gets another concussion, I don't want to see him on the field ever again. That's how I feel about it. But our defense has been playing poorly, to say the least. And I don't want to say that I want Eric Washington to get fired. I think he's just a better position coach than he is a full coordinator. And it's kind of hard, we like to promote from within. And then we've been seeing our guys, go from being a coordinator to being head coaches. Both of them are coaches of horrible, terrible teams right now. I mean, say what you need to about how the Bills and the Cardinals are doing and whether or not they'll actually be good anytime soon. My guess is no, but it's still a big deal to have your defensive coordinators go on to have head coach status. And I think we got a little bit too happy here with the whole promote from within thing. And Eric Washington probably would do better at just focusing on one part of the defense. I think our secondary coach is doing pretty well. I mean, we just have a lot of talent there, honestly. James Bradbury is doing a lot of good work. Dante Jackson's obviously doing a lot of good work. But to stay on focus here, Eric Washington really hasn't been an improvement on our defense. I think we're about where we were last year. I mean, 3rd and 9th against the rush sounds like a big difference, but honestly, we're allowing less than 100 yards on the ground per game. So, really, if a 10 or 14 yard difference in that to get down to 3rd isn't really the big issue here. The biggest issue for me on the defense is we're not seeing any kind of pass rush. And for a coach to come from being the defensive line coach to being the defensive coordinator, we're getting no pass rush from a D-line that consists of Julius Peppers, Mario Addison, who does have his double digits already, which is actually really great. That's flying way under the radar. Mario Addison already has double-digit sacks on the season. But we have Julius Peppers, Mario Addison, Dontari Poe, 2K Short. I haven't heard K'Wan Short's name mentioned very much at all. I'm trying to think of the last game I actually heard K'Wan Short's name being mentioned. And it's not coming to me. Marquise Haynes apparently is not ready to play. I guess he's not really showing that he's really good enough to play just yet. I still believe that he'll be a big factor for us going into the future. And he was a project, but I thought with his speed, we'd be able to put him into different kind of sets. Maybe even throw him in there standing up and just as a pass rusher in a 4-3 look. Or maybe even a 3-4 look with him just playing really, really wide out there. Kyle Loves has some really good production here and there in spurts. But as a whole, our D-line has not looked all that formidable at all this season. Our front seven has looked decent, but with Luke taking a step back, our linebacker core goes as Luke goes. I mean, David Mayo's been playing all right here and there. Shaq Thompson's had a few plays here and there. And obviously Thomas Davis had a few plays here and there. But when you really look at the defense of the Carolina Panthers, you look at K'Wan Short, our edge rushers, and Luke Kuechly. And it all starts with Luke. And Luke is still just as smart, as cerebral as he's always been. But I just feel like he's playing a step or two slower. I'm probably even leaning more toward 2 steps slower than he has been in recent years. And I think the reason why is pretty obvious. And that still doesn't give Eric Washington any kind of excuse for the defense as a whole playing the way they have and not getting the production that we expect out of our defense in Carolina. So I don't know about exactly firing him, but I think maybe a demotion and getting someone else maybe from outside the organization to be the defensive coordinator could be the best move here. I mean, it's only his first year, and it's kind of hard to fire someone in their first year. We might be able to see what they can do in the next coming up years. We should have a lot of cap room coming up next year, and we should be able to pick up some pretty good prospects in the draft and maybe see what he can do next year. But I think these next 7 games for our defense is going to be Eric Washington's tryout and what's going to really determine what we're going to do going into next year for our defensive coordinator spot, because we really need to have some really good defensive games. And although it's a little bit unfair, it's just what we have to deal with. Those games against the Saints is going to really be the litmus test for just how far can we go with Eric Washington as our defensive coordinator. We know they're one of the best in the league, but we're in the NFC South, and we have to play them twice a year, every year. So your test for a defensive coordinator is going to be harder than a lot of other guys in the league, but that's what the job calls for. We got to play the Falcons twice a year. We got to play the Saints twice a year. And the job for the Panthers is beating those guys and finding a way to stop them, or at least contain them so our offense can get enough points to beat them at home and on the road. A split's the bare minimum. And honestly, you want to beat these guys twice if you want to be the best in the NFC South. I think the end of this season, with 1 more game against the Falcons and 2 games against the Saints, is really going to determine just where we stand with Eric Washington. But I might be wrong. What are your thoughts on Eric Washington? Should we fire him in the middle of the season? Should we be looking for someone else going into next season? And just what would your grade be for Eric Washington so far this season? I say a B. I think a B. But you guys let me know in the comments below. And you already know to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Being told y'all I been the man. Being told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.